Thank you very much for joining us today. As I said Monday at the press conference out front, we're committed to free, fair, and safe elections here in the city of Boston. We worked hard to making voting safe from COVID-19 transmission, and we made sure that voting in Boston was accessible to all yesterday. It's a situation where with the challenge of the pandemic became an opportunity to expand voting access, and the voters of Boston responded. I just want to go over a few numbers here with you from yesterday's voting in the city of Boston. With all 255 precincts reporting last night, a total of 274,344 Bostonians have cast their ballots so far. That's a turnout of 63.51% of all registered voters. That includes our early voting, in person as of yesterday, and large number of our mail-in ballots. And we continue to count mail-in ballots postmarked by yesterday, which will be arriving here in City Hall through Friday. The results are unofficial right now, but they cannot be made official until after the deadline for overseas military and absentee ballots have arrived, which is November 13th. So the numbers that we have in Boston are not final. The work is still going on, and every vote must be counted. I want to just give a special mention of the Elections Department staff, poll workers, and volunteers who did incredible work and continue to do incredible work here in the city of Boston. They made sure the polling locations were COVID safe. They operated 27 early sites across the city and 17 drop boxes. They welcomed residents and answered questions in many different languages. They helped the people of Boston make their voices heard during a pandemic, and they did the work of democracy. They continue this work to make sure that every vote is counted. And I just want, I know that it'll be kind of a footnote in history, but the way that our election department handled the ballots yesterday and was able to get the results out quickly, we're able to take, I think it was 155,000 roughly ballots that they had to count and get into machines yesterday. All of that was done almost by, I think, 6 o'clock last night. So I want to thank them for their incredible work and as they continue to do great work here. It's also important for us to understand that this is the national situation as well. Many states are still counting ballots, as we know. The presidential election is very close in many of those states. So we have to be patient, and we have to respect the democratic process. We have to respect the fact that people took time and care to vote yesterday. And we have to let the election workers do their jobs and count these votes all across election departments in this country. That message applies to every single person. No one should be calling to stop the count or talking about fraud or that when election workers are trying to do their job. It's the right of Americans and people everywhere to have their voices heard. We need to make sure that every single vote is counted. I know the situation certainly has many people anxious, and some people are looking for opportunities to speak out during this time. I would just ask everyone again to do it peacefully and constructively. It could be today, it could be the next couple of days by the time we know what the final results are with the presidential election here in the country. So we want everyone to, let's stay focused on the count. Let's stay focused on the states where we're still looking to get the results so we can understand who's going to be our leader for the next 4 years. It's important that we're clear about our values, and we want to continue to set a good example. And I just want to let's recognize the positive fact that our city and our country came together to vote in high numbers under very difficult circumstances. I want to thank everyone, not just here in Boston and throughout Massachusetts, but throughout the United States of America, who took time to cast their ballot. I want to thank everyone who helped and encouraged their neighbors to vote or who volunteered for any candidate you volunteered for. There was great enthusiasm yesterday at the polling locations all across this country. It made me proud and very proud to be an American, and obviously very proud to be a Bostonian here. Let's focus on the work that we have to keep doing to get through the pandemic and build our recovery. We have to keep following the science. We have to keep taking precautions. We need to keep supporting each other and supporting our small businesses. And we are still getting new cases every single day. As of yesterday in Massachusetts and Boston, I gave some updates yesterday, but I'll give you some new numbers today. In Massachusetts, as of Tuesday, we had 923 new confirmed cases of coronavirus. The total cases in Massachusetts, 157,308 confirmed cases of COVID-19. 12 new people died, lost their life, bringing in the total of all the folks that lost their life in Massachusetts to 9,809. Our new numbers yesterday in Boston, we had 69 new cases yesterday in Boston, bringing our total to 21,275. We had no deaths yesterday that we recorded, so our death total is 871. Just a note about our cases and deaths. Both metrics saw one-time increases at the end of last week. That came from the data reviewed by our analysts at the Boston Public Health Commission. These increases were not new cases, but they were spread out over the last 6 months. I wanted everyone just to think today of the amount of Americans that went out yesterday and voted for our democracy in light of losing over almost 220,000 people in America have lost their lives, including 871 here in Boston. So as we think about our democracy and as we think about moving forward, let's keep those families who lost loved ones over this past year in our thoughts and prayers. And let's also keep in the thoughts and prayers the people that are sick and suffering right now battling COVID-19. The latest testing data that we have for the week ending Friday, October 30th, we saw more people get tested and fewer people test positive. The positive rate went down to 7.2%, which was as high as 8% the week before. That's good to see, but it's too soon to say that we stopped the trend. I want to thank the press for helping us last week, encouraging people to go out and get tested, and we want to continue to encourage people to go out and get tested. Our numbers continue to be higher than what we need them to be in Boston, and hospitals have been seeing more activity. Those are the realities that we have to address. So I'm going to continue to urge everyone to please get tested. That helps you stay safe, and it strengthens our ability to contain this virus. Our mobile testing sites offer free testing free of charge regardless of symptom. In all, we have over 30 testing sites all across the city of Boston. You can find them if you go to boston.gov/coronavirus or simply calling 311. Our call takers can help you finding a testing location in your neighborhood. Collectively, we have to increase our vigilance to turning these numbers around. In this week, the state announced a series of targeted measures designed to do that. They go into effect this Friday, and they include a stay-at-home order advisory for the hours between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. There are exceptions for going to work, running critical errands like groceries or medication, accessing health care, or going for a walk. Along with that 10 p.m. advisory, businesses need to close in-person services at 9:30. That includes restaurants, liquor stores, gyms, both indoor and outdoor events. There is also an updated order requiring you to wear face coverings in all public places, even if you're able to maintain 6 feet of distance from others. Indoor gatherings at your home are limited to 10 people, and outdoor gatherings are limited to 25 people. The limit on events in public spaces and venues remains in place, which in Boston has been 25 people indoors and 50 people outdoors. For more details, go to boston.gov/reopening or mass.gov/reopening. These measures, I want to be clear, these measures are there to help us stop the spread of the virus. These are not easy to do. These are in line with the cautious approach that we've been taking in Boston from the very beginning of this pandemic. They respond to the case trends that we've seen for several weeks here now in Boston and clearly in the state of Massachusetts. They're also in line with the conversations that I've been having with mayors around Greater Boston about the approach and this trend that we're seeing here. It's a trend that we're experiencing in all of our communities. If we respond as individual cities, we'll be less effective. If it can be unfair to small businesses based on where they're located. So I want to thank my fellow mayors for the ongoing conversation and the governor and the state for listening to all of the concerns that people have. I urge everyone to comply with these new advisories. I know that it's been a difficult time for our businesses, and I know many of them are struggling. But if we don't get the virus under control and we don't stop this trend of increase in positivity rate, we'll be in a far worse situation in a few weeks or months. I'll be standing here talking about shutting everything down. And we don't want to be doing that. So I'm asking everyone, please take this virus seriously. I know it's hard and we're feeling some fatigue. And nationally, these steps have been polarized. I want to be clear. This is a public health response. So I'd like everyone to keep in mind the purpose of these guidelines. These are a strategy to get our COVID numbers back under control and to keep people out of the hospital. And that's the only way that we can continue to get our economy up and running and our communities back on track. So if you want to go back to nightlife, youth sports, concerts, sporting events, more importantly, if you want to get the kids back in school, which is really important for us to do, the way we do that is taking back, doing these precautions, stopping the spread of the virus, and turning the trends around that are happening right now. We have to be vigilant, and we have to be intentional about stopping the spread. We have to keep wearing masks and face coverings. We have to keep washing our hands with soap and warm water. We have to keep maintaining our physical and social distancing and avoid gatherings, especially parties. We have to follow the guidelines that are put in place. Those guidelines help us. We've seen for a 3-month period here in the city where we follow those guidelines and we saw our infection rate go down to 1.8%. I also want to acknowledge that this is hard for our restaurants and our other small businesses here in the city of Boston. So we continue to support you in whatever ways that we can. One of the things we did this spring was to put in place technical support for our restaurants and stores to help them operate takeout and delivery. These opportunities are still available. We also continue to offer reopening grants for PPE, spacing materials, cleaning materials, and many other opportunities for our restaurants. We want to continue to be available to listen to any concerns that you might have. We're asking the businesses in our city to please visit boston.gov/reopening or reach out to our Office of Small Business. And I encourage everyone to look for ways safely to support our restaurants and our small businesses during these very difficult times. As a city, we're going to continue to support everyone impacted by this virus and its health impacts, economic impacts, and certainly its social impacts. I want our seniors to know we are reaching out and we want to hear from you. I want our immigrant communities to know that we are reaching out and we want to hear from you. I want all of our communities in the city of Boston, our communities of color, and all of our communities to know that we understand the impacts this virus is having, and we want to continue to work. We're going to continue to work to tackle these inequities, and we are here for you. I want our families and our school children to know we understand how hard remote learning is on our kids, and that we are here for you. Boston is a city where we listen to each other and we show up for each other. That's what we need to focus on this week. Whatever happens in the election, we have to take care of each other and take care of our city. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity, and now I'll turn over questions. I do have Commissioner Gross with me today to answer any questions that we might want to have, and then I also have Marty Martinez, Chief Health and Human Services, here as well to answer any questions. Yeah.
His vote for president. And do you think that shows good leadership for the people of the Commonwealth?
Well, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of America. That's the beauty of voting. When you go in, you can do what you want. I'm just grateful that he went to vote yesterday, and I wish that more Americans went to vote yesterday. But that's everyone's right. When you go in there, you can do what you want. I'll just remember when I was a state representative and even as mayor, many times I was unopposed. And I would look at my numbers, and I'd look at the blanks to see how the blanks did, because then I'd know what I need to do. So the fact that he voted yesterday was important.
What is your level of concern that there will be demonstrations, unrest, violent protests here in the city of Boston?
As of right now, I have no concern about violence in Boston. I think that there'll definitely be some demonstrations over the next couple of days. I'm not concerned about violence in the city. I think we've proven here in Boston that we can demonstrate peacefully and let our voices be heard. I think that, many different people are talking about doing marches today all across America, which you can do, but we don't have a final result yet in the election. So I would just ask people to do it peacefully.
The mask situation, will you be enforcing as these protests continue maybe into the weekend? Will they be required to wear the mask?
No, I mean, we're asking everyone to wear a mask. If you're gonna march in the streets of Boston, wear a mask. If you're going to demonstrate, wear a mask. If you're going to walk to the store, wear a mask. If you're going to go for a walk inside your home, wear a mask. If you're going to just go walk, wherever you go, this is really important. I mean, I don't want to be standing here at this podium. As I said, last week's test was 7.8%, certainly better than the week before, 8%. It's not a trend. It only went down 0.2%. But if we don't get this under control, many people are concerned and frustrated with everything, because our restaurants now won't have an opportunity. They'll have to shut down at 9:30, so won't have the chance to flip that last table. We have kids in our schools, quite honestly, parents that want to have our kids in our schools. They're frustrated because they don't understand why we can't send our kids to our schools. There's a lot of frustration here. So I'm asking people in the city of Boston, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, wear the mask. Wear your mask. That's what the public health experts say. You don't have to look too far. I mean, today on the national news, it's going to be all about the presidential election. 2 days ago, it was talking about every single day for the last 3 or 4 days. We have had the most cases of coronavirus in our country. Every single day we've broken a record. That's serious. We need to take this virus seriously. I don't want to be standing here 2 weeks from now saying that we're shutting everything down. Right now, it's a voluntary, and that's what we want to do. Again, I don't think we should be policing people's health by telling people you have to wear a mask to keep yourself safe and keep other people around you safe. I'm hoping we don't have to get to that point.
Do you reflect on where the election stands now? Is it closer than even you thought it would be? And are you concerned the president's words about counting the votes is going to foment some sort of unrest?
Well, certainly, I thought that yesterday when I went to vote and before that, I thought one of two things were going to happen. Either, Vice President Biden was going to win in this landslide, or it was going to be like what we're in today. And I was kind of hoping for the first part of that. Unfortunately, we're here. But I think that watching the states, watching Michigan, the votes that are still to be tabulated, it seems like they're coming out of very Democratic areas, urban areas in Michigan and Wisconsin, and even Nevada. I think that I think it's Clark County in Nevada where the numbers are coming out. I think that I haven't spoken to the Biden campaign, but I think that they should feel good about it. But you don't know. Arizona, one of the networks called it last night for Biden. Another one didn't call it. That's got a little closer. It was a 200,000 vote lead last night. It's under like 95,000 now. So I think we're in for a long day. It could come down to Pennsylvania. And if it comes down to Pennsylvania, then what's going to happen is we're not going to know who the next president of the United States of America is probably till Friday, because I think the last time I saw it, they said there's millions of ballots that are still uncounted there. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I feel good today. I don't feel like I did 4 years ago about my candidate. So I feel good today. I feel really good today.
On that point, do you have any thoughts about why there wasn't a stronger rejection of the president?
No, that's a good one. That's a great question. The question is, on those thoughts, do I feel why there wasn't a stronger rejection of the president? Right now, the popular vote is 50% Joe Biden and 49% Donald Trump, which is basically a tie. It just shows you how divided our country is. After this election, regardless of who wins, we have work to do. And I think that we have work to do on all across. Both the Democrats and Republicans have work to do. Where you come down politically, whether you're progressive or conservative, I think that we have to get back to. Joe Biden talked about this yesterday in the campaign, fighting for the soul of our nation. We really have to get back to civility in America. We are a divided country in so many different ways. And I think that, I'm on a text chain with a bunch of mayors from around the country. We're on it last night. And I think, like, even as mayors around America, I think we need to step up a little more on the national scene to really bring some I don't know, civility, if you will, to the political system here. It's just we're divided as a country. It's the bottom line.
Do you have any reaction to Trump issuing a premature declaration of victory and saying that he would take the election to the Supreme Court to stop the counting? What's your reaction to those?
I don't have a reaction to that. I think that the bottom line is there's lots of early votes that still have to be counted, and we have to wait for those votes to be counted. And then when those votes are counted, we'll know who the next president is.
Where does the Boston turnout rank historically?
Oh, good question. So the Boston turnout, yesterday we had 63.5%, which is slightly below the 2016 turnout, which was 66.75%. 2012 was 65.87%. So Boston yesterday beat the 2008 turnout. So it wasn't one of the highest. I guess if you average the last 4 presidential elections, we're right in the average place.
Question for Commissioner Ross. Can you tell us what the next few days will look like in the city from Boston police perspective? You said you didn't want it to be intimidating, but I imagine you guys will still be out there. What's it like kind of planning for days and days without results?
Okay, great question. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the citizens of Boston. I'd like to thank the election committee, definitely under Mayor Walsh. The voter turnout yesterday was phenomenal. And in each and every poll that we visited, you saw seniors there, you saw families there, people voting peacefully. That's exactly what we asked of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We know it's a contentious election and that people will voice their opinions, but when you voice your First Amendment rights, do so with the voices of logic, not the ignorance of destruction. Here's what it looks like in the city, folks. Again, we need your eyes and ears. If you see something, say something. But in a state of preparedness, we have to plan from worst case scenario to best case scenario, and that's what we've done. And we want to assure people that we do have the assets in place, we do have the backup in place, state, local, and federal, to handle anything that may become contentious. But as the mayor alluded to, what a great job by everyone yesterday. Everybody sending a message to vote peacefully, respect people's rights to vote freely. That's from our great seniors that led the way. Again, the election committee, our clergy, our people from the community. So what we expect to see in the next couple of days while we get this count in is for people to do the same thing. Let's look out for each other. This nation began here. We should set the example, and we sure did yesterday. So, again, calls to service, officers in place. Protection of our city, officers in place. But the biggest part about the policing is community policing. So if you see something, say something, 1-800-494-TIPS. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Actually, is declared a winner at some point? Does that?
I didn't hear you, sir, please.
Is your planning for these things, does it depend on who wins?
Absolutely. As I just alluded to, you have to be prepared for any outcome of this election, whether it's Biden, Mr. Biden, or Mr. Trump, and how people may react to that. So I can honestly say that the Secretary Turco, Undersecretary Reedy, the Secretary of Public Safety, Colonel Mason, State Police, our law enforcement councils led by President Keyes of the Massachusetts Major City Chiefs, President Farnsworth of the Mass Chiefs Association, General Keefe, we're all working together, and we're all hoping that, you know, things will be peaceful no matter what the outcome. But we want to let the Commonwealth of Massachusetts know, and the bad guys, we are talking, we are working collaboratively, and we are prepared.
Will you guys be requiring permits for the?
Yeah, I'll inside a second.
I was wondering if whether it's police or city officials will be enforcing the stay-at-home advisory this weekend if demonstrators are out past 10 p.m., which we did see over the summer order.
I'll be the mayor. We are here to educate people, and we'll rely on everyone else. This is, again, community. Adhere to the CDC guidances and protocols. One death is too many. We've seen these tragedies, so please, everyone pull together. Can't put a cuff on common sense. So we'll hope that everyone acts accordingly.
Let me just real quickly on that one. Listen, if there's demonstrations in the city, protests, I'm asking people to do it early. Be home by 9:30. Again, it's about other people's health here. You know, and that's what we're going to do. I mean, many of these demonstrations, they start out, we don't know what the numbers are, so sometimes people will pull permits and they'll talk to us about it, sometimes they don't. Usually it's more of a walking, it's a free speech. So, again, if there's a planned rally somewhere with speaking, then somebody will pull a permit. But I'm asking people in the city, if you're going to do marches or walks, and I'm assuming there'll be some this weekend, depending on what happens, just be respectful of, remember the coronavirus. And you know, in the very beginning, when we had the demonstrations in May and June, we gave masks out, and that was a very emotional time in our city and for a lot of people. This is emotional as well, but there's a little time to plan here. So we're asking you, do not be marching around the streets of Boston at 11 o'clock at night. It's the wrong message to be sending to what we want to do. We still are in the middle of the pandemic. Part of the reason why the election results aren't in today is because of a pandemic, because so many states and cities did early vote that we were not able to get the vote in on time, and that's why we're in the situation we're in today. So remember, this pandemic is serious. This pandemic is taking people's lives. We want to make sure during this pandemic that we keep our hospitalization rates down. We want to make sure that can keep our restaurants open, our businesses open, our economy open, and probably most importantly, we want to get our kids back to school. Our kids who haven't been in school, many of them since March 16th of earlier this year. So I just want to ask everyone, please keep that in mind, and thank you, everyone.